Hey guys, it's Miko from Elmo Sound Lab, and today I'll be leaking a plugin that we may or may not release ever. Okay, what is this all about then? Well, as you probably know, I have more ideas than what we can actually produce, and there have been several plugin projects that we've started and never released. And this is probably one of the coolest and different kinds of plugins that we've started working on that is actually already, it's finished. It's essentially finished aside from the UI, which we have prototypes for. Anyways, let me just tell you what it's all about. I wanted to come up with a mixing tool because, as you know, I never use any mixing on any of the demonstrations that I make. I want to keep it very honest and straight with you guys, and your expectations for what the plugins will sound like is gonna be 100% what the demos sound like, because I'm not mixing them. Now, I wanted to make this tool for myself and you too, of course, but I wanted to create a mixing plugin that does everything. So it would do all the EQ stuff that I would do, it would do all the compression stuff that I want to do, it would have saturation on it, it would have clipping, limiting, it would have everything in it baked into one thing, and it would be super easy and fast to use, like a workflow, workhorse type of a plugin. Now this is the amazing plugin that I'm talking about. Looks pretty, right? Well, it's a prototype, so you actually only see the controls that you have in the plugin, and I'm trying to actually strip them down to be even less. But this is amazing. This does everything that I would ever do. So everything in here is based on one favorite plugin of mine for each task. So, for example, the sub gain is a Pultec low-end boost. So that is the industry standard for boosting kicks and bass. Then if you turn it down, it's actually an SSL low cut. Likewise, the air knob, which is the fifth EQ here, you sort of can see 5 knobs for EQ. The air knob is actually a high cut from an SSL console. So that's it. That is what I use for low pass, high pass, and I can now have them in my own plugin because I can clone this stuff. Now, if you boost this air control, it's actually a Neve style brightness tone knob, whichever you want to call it. So it adds a very silky, nice high-end brightness to your sound. These are the things that I would use personally. So this is sort of a Miko mixing plugin, so to say, but trying to make the workflow super fast and easy. So you have the Pultec boost, you have the Neve brightness, and you have SSL high cut, low cut. Now the low gain is also sort of an SSL style, around that 200 Hz, but these EQ moves are all very wide Q, so they are multi-purpose, which, if you know me, I'm sort of against surgical EQ. None of the good records that I really love had any surgical EQ because it's the analog days. The low gain is around that 200 Hz, so it adds fullness. It's right around that snare, low end area. So you many times want to boost this on the snare and cut it on whatever is trying to come in front of the snare. The mid knob is actually different frequencies for cutting and boosting. So cutting will be more around that muddy 400, 600 Hertz area. So it can be sort of this annoying nasally sound, or kind of just a muddy, bad kind of a muddy frequency. So you can actually cut it out, or if you boost it, it's going to be more around that 1K, kind of this nasally sound. This is also based on an SSL EQ curve and the moves people usually do on an SSL console. Now the high EQ is actually based on my favorite EQ for mastering, which is the T-Rax 1. So this is 4K, but this is a very specific kind of boost at 4K and also a cut at 4K. So this is actually based on a Fletcher-Munson curve. If you know Fletcher-Munson, it's what happens to the way you hear things when loudness changes. So if you hear things super loud, that 4K will be the most nasty frequency in human ears. So for that reason, this high gain EQ at 4K is actually one of the most important frequencies and things you should control in every single track that you're using. So very loudness dependent to have that 4K working correctly. So you can boost and cut it in very specific ways. That is the EQ section. So let's have a listen to that EQ section. I'm just going to play some drums and you'll kind of hear what's going on. So if you boost the lows, it sounds very natural and ballsy. If you cut them, it doesn't sound like a telephone or anything. It sounds very natural. Man, that sounds good. Now the low gain will affect the snare low end, like I said before. Mid-range cuts lower, boosts higher. So you can really hear that snare kind of contour up when you kind of cut the mids, and when you boost this, you'll actually hear the ring of the snare better. Very barky frequency. And now the 4K, this is the most powerful control probably out of all these. And then we have the Neve style treble boost. So silky. So proud of this EQ. Let's hear it on guitar too. So you can cut the lows from guitar, or do an idiotic thing like that. More likely, if you want to boost the low end on guitar, you would use the low gain here. So this is the one. Something like that maybe. Or if you want to cut them out. And likewise, many times, if you want to cut the mids, sort of that Mark series Metallica Petrucci type thing, the mid gain works quite well for that. And if you want to get the guitars more nasally, more cut, this EQ is just perfect, by the way. And 4K notoriously is the guitar annoying frequency, so you can control that here too. But a really good IR wouldn't really have that much 4K to begin with, so not even necessary to use it here, but you can if you are working on some really bad IRs. I feel sorry for you. Now, the Neve preamp adds a very wide brightness. Almost turns this into a recto tone. And if you wanted to, on a guitar, make a guitar lo-fi, you just turn the sub gain and air all the way off. Man, this is so awesome. I feel like even if you guys don't care about this plugin, I'm gonna release it anyways. Okay, back to the next topic, which is compression. And my favorite compressors are Wave CLA 76. You may hate that one, but that is the industry standard for punch. So I'm really not gonna plan to give people controls over attack, release, or ratio or anything like that. I'm just gonna essentially have 3 presets. That is the plan for quick workflow, and the presets would be punch, and that would be the CLA 76. Pretty much nailed. I've already done it, so I know it's spot on. Then the next one would be glue, which is based on 2 different compressors. One of them is the SSL bus compressor, which is also an industry standard, and Brainworks Townhouse. I actually prefer the Townhouse over the SSL comp. So they're actually not that far from each other. I think the ratio is a little bit different on those plugins. This can sort of do both. So the glue preset would sort of do the SSL bus compression and the Townhouse thing. And then the last mode would be limits. The limits mode is actually based on an L2, that's Waves L2, and also the Fab Filter limiter. They kind of do a similar thing, but those are the 2 that I was really trying to nail. So those are the ones that I would use personally when I'm trying to use a limiter. So those 3 modes are essentially in there. So once again, I just went through my favorite plugins, what I would use. And those are the ones that have stood the test of time in my workflow. And I think they would work really nice for you too. So those are sort of the quick presets. You would have a 1 knob compressor doing all those things. I can't actually remember what the settings were. I believe I can get pretty close to a CLA 76. The ratio at 4 actually didn't match my ratio at 4. But let's just have a listen to what it sounds like if I try these settings here. Pretty close, but something like that. So this is the compression that I have here in this beta version, is the CLA 76 type compressor. So it pumps. That's what it's supposed to do. And then we have saturation. You may have actually heard me kind of teasing about wanting to release a plugin with the saturation algorithm in ML drums. This is it. This is the saturation algorithm we have. And this is actually based on, well, this is odd harmonics. So if you know Kazrock, True Iron, one of the best saturators out there, it's pretty much the same. It's identical almost to some of the modes on that plugin, and also identical almost to Fab Filter's Saturn. I can't remember the name of the mode that I use the most, but it's the odd harmonics one. So this is a perfect model of saturating a really nice preamp, and you can obviously go way, way, way beyond what you'd actually get from a preamp. So let's have a listen to that saturation. Like in 1 second, I can get that lo-fi dirty sound going on because the workflow is so fast and easy. It's awesome. Let's see. If you guys really are interested in this plugin, by the way, please comment down below that you want this. And yeah, let's make it happen. Now, the rest of the knobs, this is just a compressor gain, which is makeup gain. So obviously if we have a 1 knob compressor, then it would have auto gain most of the time. Depends a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, but this would be just a makeup gain for that compressor. Now, what's really cool is the clipper that we have here. And this clipper is actually identical. And when I say identical, I mean 100% identical to Ozone's maximizer in the, is it IRC1 and 2? One of those, the one that I use most of the time myself. So this is identical to the most popular mastering clipper in the game. It's a part of this plugin. So let's just maybe play this entire mix and I'll show you how I would actually set this one up. So Let's have a listen. Okay, it's eating a lot of the signal right now, so let's just try and find that nice spot where it's doing just a little bit on the kick, but nothing else. Okay, and now I clipped 7 dB. The standard is to have everything clipping at -1. So quick math would be 6 dB. If we're cutting 7, we're gonna be adding 6 back. That is the auto gain algorithm. Pretty easy math. Let's see what it sounds like. And we are hitting -8 LUFS, and it sounds amazing. So essentially with this plugin, you should be able to do everything. So you can do all the EQ moves you want. You can do a punchy compressor. You can do a kind of transparent glue kind of compression, and you can do the kind of L2 limiting. Then you have the analog preamp, true iron, fab filter, nice setting, saturation on this that you can push for distortion. And then you have essentially the ozone clipper in here. This is a no-brainer for me personally, but for some reason we have so many projects on, and for some reason we've kind of put this on the back burner. So if you are interested in a plugin like this, purely a mixing plugin from MO Sound Lab, please comment down below and give me some opinions on how you would love to see the UI work. I just want to make it super simple and easy and quick. And bye.